Welcome back to Marcia Speaks, where we're speaking life and giving truth. I'm so excited to share with you guys the next episode to my Faith, Focus, and Finish Strong Zoom talk. On this episode, we're focusing on mental health, talking about it's okay not to be okay. We have a special guest, Tennille, who's a licensed social worker and Christian counselor. Please forgive me. As you guys know, I was too excited that I forgot to hit record in the beginning. So it picks up with Tennille talking about what brought her into the mental health field. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you know each time I post a video. Every Thursday, you can catch my Faith, Focus, and Finish Strong Zoom talk on, of course, Zoom at 8:30. Details is below on how you can sign up to get weekly updates on the Zoom talk. I hope you guys are doing well during this COVID-19 pandemic. If you haven't already, get outside. Social distance, of course. Wear your mask if you have to, but get outside and enjoy nature. Until next time, remember, God loves you and so do I.
So I am very honored to be here. So I just want to say that first. And I think you asked me what brought me to the field of mental health. So it was actually by accident. My first job out of college, I knew I wanted to do the exact opposite of what my parents would have me do, which was like to be a scientist and all that. So my first job out of college was a vocational counselor working with people with intellectual disabilities. And I absolutely loved it. I continue to work with that population. And I think what I saw was, looking back on why I stayed in the field, I think I saw pieces of myself in them. So I could see my own brokenness in them, and it helped kind of to work out my own issues and my own journey to wholeness, which is a journey that continues. But that's what really brought me into the field. And then my desire deepened for wholeness in myself, and that kind of led me into social work as a result. So I got my master's in social work and went into clinical social work, and that's kind of the story.
Oh, wow. I think you touched on something very key, and that's the word wholeness. I feel like we're always constantly trying to be whole, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and it's always something that we're trying to overcome. As our topic tonight is, it's okay to not be okay. Can you kind of touch on some strategies and tools women can use when they're like not feeling that their best, but they're hiding behind it?
There was an echo on you in the last thing you asked me, so I couldn't hear you. When they're not feeling their best, and what was the last thing you said?
They're hiding.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I know a lot about hiding. I really do. I think, and it's deep. I see a lot of women of color on here, but for all women, it's really, the hiding is deep. And I'm sure people can resonate with the fact that we tend to wear masks. As women, we have to wear masks because we have to be the caretakers of our children. We have to be the ones that can actually be resilient enough, no matter if we're sick, no matter if we've got a million things going on, no matter if everything's falling apart, we've got to be able to pull it together for other people. And it's sometimes when you wear the mask too long, you actually forget. You can forget who you are. And so I definitely know all about that. And my journey to wholeness has been to have a safe space to be able to take off the mask and to be able to be free to express my feelings. You have to have those relationships where it's going to be safe enough to be real and raw. And even if it ends in an argument or if it ends undesirably, you're safe in that relationship. Those relationships are so important. So whether it be girlfriends, whether it be husband, whether it be mentors, just some place where you cannot be okay and it's accepted. That's really a recent lesson that I'm learning, and I think that's really important.
I think you bring up a good point when you say that finding a safe place. I think for myself, I can attest to the reason why I did walk around for so long saying that I'm okay and hiding behind my smile is the fear of judgment, the fear of others judging me, the fear that, oh, no one understands what I'm going through, right? And just the fear of people will be like, oh, she's so weak, and it's always, that thinking about other people and what other people would think. But in reality, we have to think about ourselves. And I realized that when I missed that opportunity to tell someone that, you know what, I'm not okay, I missed that opportunity to allow someone to speak life into me. Right? Because if I'm just saying that I'm not okay, then they're just going to leave it at that. Okay, she okay? But like you said, finding a safe place is very important. And what do you recommend? Like, what would you say is a safe place? Like, how would you define someone that's safe to talk to? Because I know as many women probably can attest to on this call, they thought they had friends that they can talk to, right? They thought that they had places that were safe, but then it backfired on them.
Yeah. And I've had that too. And for me, trust has been a big issue. That's something that I continue to work on and work out. So the first thing that I would say is that the first fundamental safe place has to be the relationship that you have with God. That has to be the first safe place that you have. And the reason for that is looking into his reflection, and that for all of us, he's so creative that we're all so different, and the way that we interact and commune with him is all going to look different. But fundamentally, when we're looking into his reflection through his word, through prayer, through worship, we begin to take on his nature as we look at who he is. And so that's the first safe place that we have to be, even in our brokenness. And so me being an introvert, like if introvert was in the dictionary, it would be my face. I would be right there because I'm extremely introverted. So relationships tend to be very draining to me, even on a good day. So it has been a journey for me to be able to learn who is safe and who is not. And so I tended to err on the side of nobody's safe. I'm just going to go into my prayer closet and just be with God, and that's the only relationship. Of course, that doesn't work because, as you and I, Marcia, talked earlier, God uses people to bring deliverance, to bring things that you need into your life. So relationships are very important. But the first thing is to understand who you are and how he sees you, and then you can begin to pick up on that vibration in other people. But I guess just in some rules of thumb, if you find that the person that you're with is always talking and you're not able to get a word in edgewise, you're doing most of the time, they're doing most of the talking and you're doing all the listening, that person is probably not a safe space. You can kind of tell when someone's safe when they are genuinely interested in what you have to say. And so they'll be silent and give you an opportunity, and just their presence will bring things out of you, even if you didn't want it to come out. Mm-hmm. Those are clues that God is sending that person into your life for a particular moment or a particular season. But I would say, if you're like me and you're extremely introverted, then start with that relationship that you have with God first, and let the Holy Spirit lead you into those other relationships that He would like you to have.
Right. That is so true. I like how you stated to go to God first, and then allow Him to show you who's safe and who's not safe. And I know for me, like you said, like if the other person is doing most of the talking and you're doing most of the listening, then maybe that's not a safe place. But then also what I found as well is people who bring that negativity. So if you say something to them and then they just hit you with negativity, then you know that, and then everything you say, they're just shooting it down. It's almost like they don't believe in you, but they're supposed to be your support system. And so those are some really great points. So as women, I know that we have to deal with a lot of different feelings. So can you share with how can we overcome thoughts of feeling unworthy?
Mm-hmm. And even before I talk about that, something you said just triggered a thought. You're so right about how you feel in that person's presence. Like if they're being super negative towards you, then you can kind of feel it. You feel it in your spirit. You feel it, deep inside when somebody's not for you. And what I would just encourage everyone to do is to just pay attention to those feelings of, I don't feel good when after I've spent time with this person. That's another clue that it's not a safe relationship. If you feel drained, if you feel like you've just been run over by a bus after being with this person, then that's a good clue. So, sorry about that. I just had to say that. So, as far as overcoming feelings of unworthiness, I'm glad that you introduced me as a Christian therapist, because that is where I begin with my clients. I don't always introduce spirituality first. I work with all types of clients. My individuals that I work with intellectual disabilities don't always identify as having any kind of spirituality. But what I do is, once I realize there's an opening or someone is open, then I'll bring that into the practice. So by invitation, I do that. But I was told that I could talk about that here, because that really is my view. It's how I perceive everything, is through the way that I believe that God sees humanity. So to answer that question, Marcia and I were talking earlier, and I really think that the conversation really helped open up about thinking about unworthiness. And unworthiness really that feeling of unworthiness comes from some core beliefs. There's a core belief that we all have, and really when we're talking about this in terms of how God sees us versus how the world sees us versus how, ways we've grown up, we're really talking about lies. There's core lies sometimes that our personality develops around. And they happen really young, sometimes even before we can remember them happening. And those lies will be like programs running in the back of our head. And they can be so automatic that it's hard to even identify them, because they become such a part of us that we think they're us. They're really these lies that are kind of programmed in the back of our mind. So I think the first step to really overcoming the feelings of unworthiness is to identify, what lie am I believing about myself? What's going on here? And so you kind of have to unravel and go backwards, kind of like when you tie the string through the woods to find your way back. You got to go back and figure out where the lie began. And so for me, I just give an example of myself, because I've been doing some of this work for myself. It's an ongoing work. We're always doing this work. But recently, I have really discovered that one of the lies that I believed is that in order to be loved, I have to be perfect. And that is something that really has defined a lot of the decisions that I've made in my life, is that I felt that in order to be loved, I had to be perfect. And that lie entered into my relationship with God. It entered into my relationship with my husband. It entered into my relationship with my children. So it's been an ongoing thing to identify that lie. But once I understood the lie, then I could take the lie to the Word and to God and just find out what the truth is. And the truth is that all of us have fallen short of the glory of God. All of us have our own righteousness as filthy rags. We're all in the same position before Him. And yet He loves us anyway. And He clothes us with His righteousness and with His truth. And so the way to combat lies is with truth. And that is how, for any of us, when we have feelings of unworthiness, once we identify the lie, we just have to identify God's truth and fight with that truth.
Wow, that is so powerful. I think you kind of took us to church a little bit.
I go there quite easily, so I apologize.
No worries. I welcome it. And if anybody else don't, then hey, they can exit, right? Because we're all about God here. We on a G team all day, every day. So that was powerful. So identify the lie, and then take that lie and then find the truth. Wow, I love that. So for certain women who find it really hard to let go of that shame and guilt and those lies, Maybe because they have people in their circle that continues to not see them in their new season, to see them in the new place that they're in, that continues to remind them of who they used to be. Because like you said, we're all imperfect beings, right? We all make mistakes. We all sin. But then once we ask for forgiveness, and then part of asking for forgiveness is also forgiving ourselves, then how do we not allow other people's opinions and thoughts, and not even ourselves, continue to shame and guilt us? Because what we do know by the word is that who the Son sets free is truly free indeed, right? So God does not condemn us. People should not be allowed to condemn us, and we should not be able to condemn ourselves. So in those times when we cannot seem to let go of that shame and guilt, or other people cannot let go of it, how should we respond?
That's a good question. I think what I would say to that is this life is a battle, and we have to fight. It really is. And as women, I think instinctively we understand being warriors. We may not suit up, in our superhero outfits physically, but we really do every day. We're going out into the battlefield as superheroes because of the multiple layers of things that we deal with on a daily basis. And so what I would say is that the first thing is that the mindset is that this is a battle, and I'm going to have to war with the truth. So whether the lies are coming from within, which I think oftentimes the biggest enemy is the inner me, and that is when you're struggling with yourself. But sometimes the lies are coming from the people you love most. It could be coming from your family. It could be coming from your circle of friends. It could be coming from a mentor that you've really appreciated. It could be coming from your pastor. I mean, that importance of knowing what the truth is always going to be what's going to help you to stand when you're in the battlefield of the mind. And so what I would say when the battle is on, having those people around you that you can text and say, hey, I need you to pray for me. I am being attacked. I'm having fear, anxiety, and that's going on a lot right now, where people who have been strong in their faith are being attacked with fear, anxiety, panic, all sorts of just things that they haven't dealt with, and they need to be able to text people around them and say, hey, I need you to pray for me. I know what the truth is, but I just cannot grasp it right now. And so that's where those relationships are really important to come in. And then as far as for yourself, sometimes you have to go to God. I know I do. Sometimes I have to go to him and say, God, I'm a hot mess right now. I don't want to pray. I don't want to do anything, but I'm willing for you to make me willing to do those things. And so even if you give him your willingness to be willing, he's so amazing to just work with that. So that's what I would say to that.
Wow, yeah. Sorry, I keep forgetting to unmute myself.
Okay, it looked like you were saying something there.
So those are really great. Just finding a community that you can go to and speak with. And, I've learned to, with one of my girlfriends, I let her know what my low seasons are. And I let her know what my triggers are. And I say, so when I call you, she said, so when you're in a low season, what do you need me to do? So when you call me, what do you need me to do? And so we have that for each other. And so I say, when I call you, the first thing I need you to do is just start praying, right? To welcome God into the conversation. And then start speaking positive affirmations to me to remind me who I am. Because see, when the enemy attacks, the first thing he attacks is our mind, right? That's the first thing he goes for. And in order to win the battle, the first battle that we first have to win is the virtual battle, which is our mind. And then and remind ourselves that who do God says we are. And let me remind you guys, if you don't know who God says you are, I want to remind all you beautiful ladies that God says that you are loved, that you are special, that you were created with a purpose, that you were made in his image, and most importantly, that you are forgiven. So the reason why I brought this question up is because as women, all day, every day, we can ask God for forgiveness. We can ask other people for forgiveness. But have you looked in the mirror and asked yourself for forgiveness? Because the reason why we can't let go of all that shame and guilt, it's not because of other people. It's not because of God. It's because we haven't looked at ourselves in the mirror and say, you are forgiven. Like Tennille said, we're not perfect beings and we've made mistakes. But the purpose is not to focus on the mistakes you made, but it's to focus on what did I learn during that season, right? Because like they say, you never lose, you only learn. Okay? So hold on, let me take the mic and give it back to you, Tennille, because as everyone knows.
Really I have a question.
Okay.
That's loud. And, anyone can feel free to answer. My question is, I think it's really important as women to have sounding boards and to have people that you feel safe talking to. And I think that in the age of social media and everything, like, unfortunately or fortunately, like, you can create that sounding board, but it doesn't mean that the positive energy and people who have your best intentions are the people who you're necessarily speaking with. So how do you ladies, or how do you, Tennille, figure out, who is a good sounding board? Who is someone that you feel safe sharing things with?
Yeah, that's a great question. We talked a little bit about ways you know that somebody is not a good sounding board, and paying attention to yourself. And I really like, Marcia, what you were saying about the importance of the relationship that we have with ourselves, because sometimes we ignore what we already know. We ignore what we know. And so knowing how you feel when you're in a space with someone, if you feel dumped on, a lot of times when you're in a place with someone who just wants to kind of misery loves company and they just want to be, they just want to share their misery with you, and you can kind of go away with that on you. That's a good sign that person is not a good sounding board. We talked about if the person is mostly doing the talking and they don't give you a pause to give a word in edgewise, that's also a good sign that they're not a good sounding board. But when you come across that person and you can just tell, you can feel that they're listening to you, that they're interested in you, their body language when they're talking to you, their questions they ask you. Now, if you're talking and they're able to clarify and go back and say, I think I heard you say this, and that's when you know somebody's really listening to you, that's a good sign that they're a good sounding board. But what I would say is before you go and share like those innermost parts of your heart with anyone, is that you would pray about it first and ask God first, is this person safe? And if you feel like they're not getting any warnings or any, reasons why not, then look for those other signs. Are they listening to me? Can they repeat what I said? Or do they forget what I said before, we even finished the conversation? But you're so right. The sounding boards are so important because God uses people in relationships to build us and to shape us and to help us grow.
And Margaret Ellen, one thing that I would like to point out is one thing that I've learned as I got older is, you know how we say that it's okay not to be okay? So a good thing to look at is I have some girlfriends who I would say that I'm okay, and they'll be like, come again? What's going on? Nah, you ain't okay. Or like you'll send them a text, and then instead of responding back via text, they'll call you and be like, something's up, something ain't right. Or even if they're, you guys are together and you're like smiling, you know how we put on that mask and we smile, and they be like, come here, something ain't right. Let's talk. What's going on with you? And then as you get older, what you will find is you'll call your girlfriend to vent, but she'll say, wait a minute, let's pray about this first, and then I'll allow you to vent, right? And so I think it's just, finding those people who don't make you feel a certain way, don't make you feel like you're bothering them, right? That you're a burden on them. And they're always willing to also not look at your past and throw it in your face. Because say, for instance, if you're in a bad relationship, right? You know how you go to your girlfriends and you be like, he done cheated on me, or he, whatever, right? And they give you like, girl, you should like leave him, or blah, 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 blah. But then a year has passed and you're still in the same relationship. And then you're going back to your girlfriend to be like, he did it again. So if they're saying stuff to you like, girl, you was complaining about this last year. Why are you still complaining about this? I mean, that's not a true friend, right? Because they should say, just listen to you. Don't even have to respond. They can just listen to you. They can, be supportive of you, and then they can offer advice. But to basically make you feel like that shame and guilt and condemnation, they're not for you, because they continue to remind you of your past. The thing is, each individual person have to make the decision on their own, right? Just because somebody tells you what you should do, that's your life, right? And someone can't tell you what's right or wrong, especially if they haven't went through what you're going through. And I always say, like, I can't speak on that. I can't say in this situation I would do that or do this, because I'm not in that situation. Because then when I come to that situation, I might do the same thing or even worse that you did. And so it's just like, and sometimes you just got to test the water. Sometimes, like I said, it's not about losing, it's about learning. Sometimes you might share with the wrong person, but you'll learn the next time, like, no, I can't share with that person. Or if someone else shows the same personality as the person before, you'll know, like, oh, this is not a safe place. This is not a safe place. But every encounter has a purpose. Whether it's good or it's bad, it has a purpose to teach us something. Okay, so let me ask you one more question, Tanil, then we'll open it up to questions. Ladies, if you have a question, please put something in a comment, and then I will unmute you so you can ask your question. As women, we often put ourselves before others. Can you talk about the importance of taking care of yourself first and offer some advice?
Yes, I love this question because you hit on it earlier, Marcia, when you were talking about looking in the mirror and forgiving yourself. So that is so important. So I'm glad that we got there. We really can, again, this is a part of me, some things that I'm working out in myself, because, journey to wholeness is an ongoing journey. I love that about God. It's from one level of glory to the next, like we keep transforming. But the importance of loving yourself, because it seems, as Christian women, it really seems like the message is you shouldn't love yourself. Like you should just kind of go into that whole, holier than thou and just make it work and wear the mask, and no matter how you're feeling, it's okay. But that is so not the case. God tells us to love ourselves, to love others as we love ourselves. So we can only love others, and we can only love God even to the extent that we have accepted his love for us. And so if we have hatred toward ourselves, which I think is self-hatred is a very, very common thing. And we talked about the link between mental health and physical health. Self-hatred often manifests as eczema, often manifests as autoimmune disorders, because it's the body attacking itself. So we really, again, have to get to the root of the lies. And sometimes it's hard to know what the lie is without really doing that work of tracing, like we talked about, going back through the forest to the root. So that's what I would say first, is that we really have to learn to look in the mirror and just say, I love you. And when we don't love ourselves, we're actually at odds with God, because he loves us. So basically we're saying we're unlovable, but he's saying, but wait, I love you. So you don't agree with me? So that creates a tension between us and God when we can't love ourselves. So the first thing that I would say to all of you is that you are all so beautiful. You are the beloved of God, and you are all deeply, wonderfully loved, fearfully and wonderfully made in his image. He had thoughts and plans for each of you when he formed you in your mother's womb, and he knew you before you were even born. So that blows my mind. So just getting a hold of that truth that he loves you, and then you...
Boys, be quiet!
So I guess to answer the question after that, hopefully I wasn't rambling. Once we know that we're lovable, it comes more naturally to take care of ourselves. When we're in they talk about in the airplane, you got to put the mask on your own face first before the plane's going down. You got to put the own mask on your own face first before you try to serve your children or other people around you, because we can't help anybody if we're not we're not nourished ourselves internally. So I would just say that understanding the freedom that it's okay to engage in self-care, whatever it is that you need, whether it is you need a massage, whether it is you need to go get your toes and your nails done, whether it is you need to just take a few minutes and walk and get away, from the family, whether it is you just need a nap, whatever it is, you're worthy of that because he's called you worthy. And if you need that in order to be able to love others, then it is valid. So I would say taking care of yourself is a part of your worship.
Yes, that is so true. I feel like loving yourself it was tough for me. I don't know about anybody else, but it was tough for me. And I think like you spoke earlier, it's all about going back to your core, the lies that you told yourself from childhood. And for me, it was always because I was a fatherless child that I thought that the man who was supposed to love me, tell me I was beautiful, who was supposed to be the first man to love me, did not love me. And so I thought that I was unworthy of love. I thought I was ugly. Like, I hated my freckles, my gap. I hated everything about me. But then as I grew older and I realized who God was, and so it steps to this. So you realize who God is, right? And then you realize who God says you are, and that God made you and what he thinks of you, and that everything that you feel is imperfect, he loves about you, right? And that doesn't change. God's love for you, it doesn't change. It doesn't matter what you do to him, what you don't do for him, he still loves you, right? And so I started looking at myself differently, like, whoa, my freckles, they make me unique. I started calling them beauty marks. So because people always be like, kids are mean. What are those dots on your face? Can I connect the dots? And that used to hurt my beautiful. It's just getting back to the core. Someone had a question about, could you please repeat your comment about the eczema?
Sure. Marcia had talked earlier about the link between mental health and physical health, because last week you guys talked about physical health. This week we're talking about mental health, and a lot of autoimmune disorders can be brought on because of mental health issues, and specifically self-hatred. So, and I'm not saying that all the time this is the case, but it just can be. Asthma, eczema, what other autoimmune disorders are there? And autoimmune disorders are just basically the body attacking itself.
Right.
Can be caused by self-hatred, deep-rooted self-hatred issues. Abandonment, feelings of abandonment, feelings of just feeling unworthy. Some of those things can manifest physically.
Does anyone have a question that they would like to ask our guest speaker, Tanil? Martha, go ahead. Let me unmute you. Hey, Martha.
Hi there, ladies. Good evening.
Martha, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Good.
Thank you both so much for such great insight. Your words have been really, truly taken in, and it's been wonderful to hear you all's position. My question is, honestly, as one is on the path, right, of doing the right thing, right, what words, if any, Tanil, would you offer, as one is on the right path, trying to do the right things, right? Of course, you still have to be mindful that as you're in that transition mode, you are still encountering the old you, right? The old you, whether it's insecurity, whether it's something that you're trying to give up, what have you. What words of encouragement or what steps would you advise or recommend one to take as you continue on that, rather it's building that strong relationship with God, rather it's possibly giving up, a bad addiction, whatever that case might be, what words of inspiration would you recommend on that time?
That is such a good question, because that journey to dealing with the old me never ends. It's really, I would love, because I'm just I tend to be like a black and white person, so I would just love to be able to just be like, okay, I'm crucified with Christ. It's over now. I'm done. We got a new life. Unfortunately, it's taking up your cross daily. So I think the first encouragement I would give, Martha, is to
How is it?
be gentle with yourself. Because I know from my journey, the thing that set me back the most is, and this is a little bit of a sidebar, but it'll help you give perspective on what I'm going to say. Talking about Marcia, the way she grew up fatherless. I grew up with a father that was a strong, very strict disciplinarian. So, like, depending on the lens that you look at it through, as an African American, you might look at it, oh, he was just being a, black father. But if you look at it through the lens of today, you'd be like, that was abuse. So it depends on the lens that you're using to measure it. Because I grew up with a very strict disciplinarian dad, I brought into my relationship with God the thought that if I didn't do perfectly by God, that he wouldn't love me. And so it took I'm still dealing with that, but it really took a long time for me to understand God's grace. And as a result, I think it really set me back in my relationship with God. I took that wrong perspective into working with him. And so it made it so that I thought I was making progress. I was learning all these scriptures and doing all these things. But really, he's like, okay, you learned some scripture, but, where are you with me? And so it took a long time for me to realize that. So what I would say to someone who's on their journey and really wanting to get on this path with God is to first understand that all the works that you could ever do will never help you be righteous. It really is him that has to do the work in you. And so surrendering to the fact that it's Christ in you, the hope of glory. And so just being gentle with yourself. You are a new creature. I don't know how long you've been walking with him, but if it's a new walk, then you are someone that he's going to grow up into his kingdom. And so just day by day, taking it day by day, every day is a new step. Every day is a new day. Don't worry about the end game. It's the journey that we need to learn to enjoy. So just enjoy yourself day by day and celebrate your victories day by day. And even if you fall, even if you take a couple steps back, just know that he's still there with you, celebrating you in those victories because you're still here. So I hope that answered your question, Mark. Okay, good.
Does anyone else have a question for Tennille or just a question in general? Crickets. Everybody speak now, forever hold your peace. I know somebody has to have a question. Tracy, I see you thinking over there. Tennille, is there any other like final thoughts that you might want to share or that you might be like beneficial to the ladies on the call tonight?
I would just say that it's really, it's a great conversation that we're having. And sometimes it can be overwhelming to think about the mystery of who we are. But what I would just say is, if there was anything that you guys took away from today, is that you are loved. And I know that's easy to say, but it has taken me 40 years. I wish it was 20. It's taken me 40 years to really begin to understand the love of God. And what I would just say is it's very simple. It's really not deep. It really is childlike. And I just pray that everyone on this call would begin to enter in, if you have not already, or if you have, would just begin to deepen into that knowledge of how deeply you are loved. So that's all I would
Charles, close the door! Okay, so yeah, I need to check my mental health because being home with these kids these last 2 weeks, I'm about to go crazy, okay? But just kidding, I'm not gonna hurt anyone. Maybe. But so ladies, I do want to say some final words if no one else has any questions, comments. But I hope that you were able to take something. Oh, Tracy, did you put a question? Oh, let me unmute you. Sorry.
Looks like she's pointing downward.
It looked like Blaze had her hand up, raised her hand.
How do you? I don't even see it. Let me see, Blaze.
She did a little hand wave up in her corner at first.
I was actually clapping my hand.
Oh.
But I appreciate it, Tracy. Thank you for looking up on me. But I mean, while I actually have the mic,
That's my sister, y'all.
Hey.
for one, I appreciate you. You actually creating this platform. I think it was a great idea. I hope you guys do something in the future. But I've noticed in general, there has, especially in the Black community, there has been a lot of African Americans struggle with mental health. I live in a new area and I've met some new people.
Charles and Bryce, be quiet.
And a lot of them are in the midst of their walk with Christ. So I was wondering if you had any ideas, aside from the obvious, which for me is praying with them and praying for them. But when these type of people actually have anxiety attacks, especially with what's going on in the economy and just in their personal lives, what type of advice would you give in reference to helping them deal with their struggles of anxiety or depression?
Paul, can you please get the boys?
I think Marcia's waiting for me. That's a really good question. And that's something that I sometimes struggle with. You know, the Bible talks about if somebody's in need and you kind of say, well, be blessed, we love you, and you send them away and they didn't get any money or they didn't get the things that they needed in order to get to the next day, it's kind of not helpful.
I'm about to take this jacket. I'm getting high. Be bad if I take the jacket
off. I struggle with that too.
I mean, but I don't think nobody can see.
How can I help someone that I'm walking with? Blaze, are you talking about people that are like on the street, or are you talking about people that are like friends, like circles, or that are close to you, or?
Unfortunately, people that are close to you. I'm starting to notice that this is starting to be more frequent. I'm not sure if it's just something that I'm starting to notice, but I've noticed that people in general are having these personality disorders, social anxiety, depression, and it's something that I've noticed within the last 10 years or so, people that I've encountered. So, especially in the African American community. I've actually had a friend that she has bipolar disorder. She has anxiety as well. And, you know, times where she actually calls me, I don't know how to deal with that. The only thing that I can really do is pray for her. But, you know, underneath all of the illness, she's a great person. You know, that's just something that I've been thinking about lately as well, and I think that it's actually a problem in our community, African American community. I know that Michelle Obama touched on that subject several times, but I was just curious. You know, I didn't want to ramble, but if you know had any advice for people that actually have family members or friends. How to be there for them when they're actually going through an episode.
Yeah, so thank you for clarifying that. So if the person is, and it sounds like these are real, they can get serious quickly. So you definitely want to connect that person with some help. Telling them about the crisis center that's available in their immediate area. If you think they're a threat to themselves or others, making sure that they get that information. If you do think they're a threat to themselves or others, also working with them to actually ask them that. And so there's lots of good tools online about like suicide assessments. Like if you think this person is really, really in danger and in crisis, you can, there's numbers you can call and services you can connect them with. If it's just a matter of just really needing some counseling, you've already done what I would do first, which is kind of pray with them and introduce them to God. But, and there's no shame in this. there's lots of people in the church who have mental health issues. There's absolutely no shame in that. We come to God oftentimes because we're broken, because we have come to the end of ourselves. So with that type of scenario, I would try to connect them with therapy. And you brought up a good point about the African American community. There's a lot of stigma with getting therapy. A lot of people think, oh, I'm not crazy, I'm not psycho, why do I need that? No, it's all a part of the self-care, and it's all a part of loving yourself so that you can be equipped to love others. So explaining that to them can go a long way. But I would say taking the step to say, I think you need help. I really, you're my friend, I love you, but I'll even drive you, and I'll wait for you outside the therapist's office. And just taking that step.
What's yours? I think that's key what you said, Tanil, is being able to, like you said, create that safe place, right? And like you said, for our community, the African American community, there's this stigma of mental health. So if you're saying like I'm hearing voices or I'm seeing things or I'm feeling down, I want to kill myself, I'm so nervous that they're thinking, oh, we just need to pray for you. Oh, you have demons in you. But sometimes it requires more than prayer. No, that person may need some medication and may need some therapy from a professional. Not saying that the prayer won't help, but they just need more than just prayer. And if they come into you, that means that they trust you. So like she said, I would definitely recommend, if you don't have a counselor or a therapist, do you have insurance? Let me help you go online and search for a therapist or counselor. I will help you go to the appointments. Or if there's like a support group, for someone who may be dealing with alcohol or drugs, I will go with you to the meetings. Let me help you find the meetings so you don't have to do this journey alone. The biggest problem that we have in life is we feel alone, right? And so once we have someone there for us and holding us accountable, we're more likely to move in a certain direction. So offering them that support is key. And then telling them, okay, so are you taking any medications? Maybe you should consider medications. And there's so much stigma, but even behind medications. And this is just a transparent moment right here, because this is the reason I built this community, is for us to feel comfortable, to have a place where we can come and not feel judged. Judge me if you want, I don't care. God has the final say regardless. But I went to my physical appointment, and I was telling my doctor about how I have like situational anxiety, but I feel like it has increased. And I'm like, I can't sleep at night. I'm having bad dreams. And, she's an African American woman too. And I thank God for her, because she was like, have you ever considered medication? As some of you may know, I'm a nurse by profession. And so I don't like medication because I know what it do to you long term, blah, 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 blah. And she like, no, she was like, I'm being honest with you. I have anxiety too. She said that I take medication. She said, I used to think the same thing, but the advances in medication is different now. She said, my mind is clear. I don't have the racing thoughts. Like, I can think straight. I can get things done without all the added pressure. And so the thing is, many people have so many misconceptions about therapy, right? A lot of people won't go to therapy. I feel even if you don't have any mental condition, anything going on, you need to go to therapy. Everybody needs a healthy outlet. Now, I've been to therapy. I used to look forward. Every Tuesday, I'm there. I'm there an hour before, just waiting to get in the door. Because it gives you a real safe outlet, and it gives you a different perspective. Someone who's coming at you unbiased, without their feelings or their personal experience, just there to listen to you and help you pull those thoughts that are in your head. Because the thing is, every answer that we need, every question that we have, every problem, every solution that we need, we have it. We have the solution to all our problems. We have the answer to all our questions, right? And so a therapist just helps us link it, right, and deal with it. And so sorry guys, I'm sorry, I told too damn much, but
no, that was good. That's what therapy is. The therapist is a facilitator.
So
can I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead. Jump on in, girl. Tag, you're in.
I'm coming at this to answer your question, Ms. Blaze, as someone who's in training to be something similar to Marcy. And I think there's generational mistrust of the medical community and the Black community. And I think that's something that needs to be worked on. And that's a whole separate other situation. But I think immediate things, I'm currently in my training, and one of the things I saw before the whole COVID got out of control was people coming and being truly anxious and truly afraid about what's going on. And I think that for friends or family members that you know of, like, they truly need a high level of care than what someone as a layperson might be able to give them. And I think really valuable options, there's a lot of telehealth going on right now just to flatten the curve or whatnot. A lot of therapists are switching to online therapies. Talkspace and BetterHealth are both online therapy companies that people can use, and that can be useful in anyone, even with our pandemic going on, because we all have busy lives, and that's difficult to deal with. Something that I personally use is an app called Headspace, which offers guided meditation, and they have a free portion that's actually for this time in the pandemic called Weathering the Storm, and anyone can sign up for it, or just download the app and it's available to them. And I think that connecting that person with the services and realizing that there is a limit to what you may and may not be able to support them with, but still being willing to be that bridge is the best thing that you can do for them in this time. Wow. And I agree, sometimes, the literature shows, therapy is wonderful, and sometimes medicine can help. But sometimes for some people who are really struggling, a combination of both is the most effective. And I think far too often we think of it as a last line resort, but sometimes medication is not for forever. It doesn't need to be. And sometimes it can make that plateau easier so that we can develop the tools that we need so that once we get off medication, we're not constantly beating up on ourselves. And I think that's something that as Black women, we're prone to do so often because we wear so many masks and have to be so strong. And generationally, we had to be that way in order to survive. A lot of us are unknowingly in survival mode. And this time where we have the space, and for those who have the energy to work on ourselves, I think that's a good thing to put into motion.
Wow, that's Margaret, great. If you could possibly put those recommendations in the chat, the three apps, just in case anyone is interested in downloading. We truly appreciate those tips. I do have some questions in the chat real quick. I knew people had questions. Y'all always want to wait till we about to leave. It's almost like everybody packed up the food and they said, anybody else hungry? No, packed up the food and somebody come around the corner, man, I'm hungry. I asked you this 20 minutes ago.
I'm always the first to eat too, so
So the next question is, so you can do physical exercise regarding your body. What exercises can you do for your mental status? That's a good one.
That's a really good one. So the first thing is having stillness. So stillness is super important because, especially now, like, you can feel the world just humming and it's just going so fast with panic and fear. That it's really important to get away from everything, all of the devices, all of the doodads and the things that blip and the things that go off and the things that are alarms. And it's important to have a space where none of that is going on. And this is a part of that mental health exercise. It's like, I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to do some self-care. And for me, that's going to look different. But for me, what it looks like is I really like to do deep breathing because, first of all, I can do it anywhere. It's not super obvious that I'm doing something that is centering myself. But I like to do deep breathing and just listen to my breath in that moment of stillness where I'm putting everything aside and nothing is bothering me. And being still is a discipline, because it is so tempting when you hear your text messages come in and then you're going to check it, or you hear something happen or the phone ring and you're going to grab it. It's a discipline to say, no, I'm going to be still. This is my still time. I'm not going to respond. I'm not going to move. I'm just going to be here in this space. And so being still and knowing that he is God is it's much harder than what it sounds, especially when there's a lot going on. You guys can probably imagine, everybody's so busy. When you got a lot going on, it feels like everything's an emergency. But honestly, it's not. It really isn't. Once you let it pass and you get 30, 40, 50 seconds past the text message and it's like, okay, well, yeah, I can wait on that. So I think that's really important exercise, is learning to be still.
Yeah. Some other people shared meditation, which is similar to the deep breathing. Also journaling. I think you said prayer. Exercise is also good for your mental health. For those of us who are married, sex is good. And finding like a hobby.
I'm married.
I'm just playing. No judgment. If you're not married, you use sex. No judgment. So another thing is find something that's just for you, like a hobby, something that you can do. Like some people do sewing, some people do, what's it called, crocheting, I don't know what it's called, but find something that you just, maybe it's baking, maybe it's cooking, something where you could just be in the moment and you're able to tune everything out. It's like your happy place. Going for nature walks. My sister always says that she loves to go outside barefooted and just walking in the grass. That is so like relaxing to her. And it's so many things that you could do, and just finding your tribe, just finding a group of women that laughter is the best medicine. Okay, so sometimes I turn on my Pandora or like your YouTube or whatever, and I put on Kevin Hart radio. Telling you, I'm 100% better after a couple of minutes of that. So like she said, everyone is different. The next question is there anything natural that you could take to curb the anxiety instead of taking the medications the doctors prescribe?
Blasia, wasn't there something that you were telling me about that's natural that works with anxiety? You might have to unmute her.
Yeah, I'm about to unmute Blasia.
Okay, sorry. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on, I'm about to read it. I actually got it from Vitamin Shop. It's called Stress Care. They carry it in the Vitamin Shop, and it's actually derived from an Asian plant, so it is a herbal supplement. It's gluten free. The brand is Himalaya. That's the brand, but it's called Stress Care.
And it works, right? You said
Yes, it works. I was for myself, but after during a busy day at work, I had about 2 meetings, and I took one, a couple for the first time. They looked like really grainy supplements, and they work wonders. But then again, I don't have severe anxiety, so I don't know if anybody would be open to trying that. I don't know how that would work with somebody that actually has severe disorders, but I don't have severe anxiety. But it does help me if I actually feel like I'm stressed, or if I have some anxiety periodically.
Mm-hmm. That's good. And I hear that also as well, CBD oil. A lot of people are starting to try the CBD oil for anxiety. I hear good things about that. I haven't tried it myself, but why not?
I've heard some things about it too.
Yeah.
It helps with anxiety, pain, everything. Mm-hmm. Any more questions before we begin to close out?
I think somebody had a question about a scripture.
Oh, wait, I missed
that
on the
one.
side. Let's see. Is there a key scripture that you run to when you find yourself beginning to not love and become overly critical about yourself?
So, Marcia, I don't know if you were still planning on ending on the scripture, because that's one of my favorites.
Okay, so we're going to cover that. We're going to cover that soon. Okay. We're going to cover that. Okay. And so, again, I want to thank you, ladies, for joining tonight. Some of you guys are returning from last week. Thank you. If you invited someone to the talk tonight, thank you for that. I want to ask that you continue to share this as we continue to build this community. Any feedback you have is welcome because we're only here to grow and learn. I just want you guys to remember a couple of things before we end tonight. That you are loved and you are perfect as you are. And that you don't have to be anyone else but yourself. And like Tennille said, and like they say each time that you get on a plane, before you put anybody's oxygen mask on, put yours on first. Because like you always hear, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? Because you keep pouring, you're going to end up killing yourself. So just make sure that as much as you are giving out, as much as you are taking in. Because you can't give and not receive. So any relationship that you are having, make sure you're receiving as much as that you're giving. And protect your peace and protect your energy. If you just walk into a room and you just feel it being negative or toxic, walk out. If someone calls you with some negativity, just be like, you know what, call me back once you are calm.